Welcome back to the Omniverse Comics Guide podcast. We are your Omniverse Comics Guide guys. That's my pal Dave.
Hello.
I'm Eric. I don't know what my name is anymore, but
It's not there.
It's not there anymore. I'm Eric. You can't see it on the live Twitch. But for everybody watching on the live Twitch, thank you for joining us. As always, we love doing this with all our pals that come onto the Twitch live. If it's your first time, thank you. Give us a subscribe, rate, and review, as well as on the YouTube. That is so beautifully produced by my pal Dave right there. You make such great YouTube podcast episodes with all the nice features going on. Definitely deserves a like and subscribe, as well as if you're listening on your way to work, maybe you're in your car, maybe you're working out or doing something in the house, listening to Comic Talk, give us that thumbs up, share. Thank you. It helps us. And most importantly, omniversecomics.guide. That's the place to go for everything related to the show and to the website, reading orders. That's the guy right there, my pal. Dave, how the hell are you?
Yes, very much the hell, thank you, sir. What have you been reading this week, my dude?
Okay, so I finished the first 2 volumes of Black Hammer. I bought the third, so I've been reading those first 2 so I can finally get to the third volume, which I've realized, library edition, yeah.
Lovely.
So the second volume definitely feels like an ending. I don't know if you've read that far yet.
I thought that was it. Well, I've read up to volume 2. I've got volume 3, but I haven't read it yet. But I don't think there's any intention to end it yet, even though they've released a series called Black Hammer: The End, or are about to. There's no intention to finish the series.
Okay. Because it's quite an expansive universe when you consider like the other 5 volumes that are World of Black Hammer that are stories written by. I haven't collected those because I really just want the main series from the creators.
You can do it that way. So yeah, you don't need everything, but you can get the expanded version if you want. So there's a choice.
It's so good. It's a really well done series,
yeah.
And it's it pays a really nice homage to like that golden age Kirby sort of.
Well, that's the thing. There's all sorts of eras thrown in there. All sorts. And I think even some of the spin-offs are a bit more kind of 90s influenced. So there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's got a real charm to it, and I feel like there's not many things anymore that are comic shows that I would want to watch. Whereas if this was made into a television show, I would want to watch it just because like it's well written. Like it's good.
Yeah.
Superheroes are not superheroes. It's not about that. It's more about like the characters.
Exactly. Yeah. Very character driven.
Yeah. So I would be interested in it for a television show for that factor. But it's unfortunate that so many things are like it's over. I never thought I would say it's oversaturated. Like the comic book movie crossover thing. It's gotten to a point where it's like
I don't even look anymore. I think if something does come out that intrigues me enough, just as because it looks intriguing, I'll watch it.
Right.
But like saying in the Discord chat recently, I've got enough stuff that isn't comic related on my list that I don't have time to watch. I'm not going to watch something just because it's based on a comic, because like if my heart's not in it, I'm not watching it.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many things to pick, so you're even more choice with like where am I going to spend my time when there's so many things to pick.
Yeah,
I want
so much to read.
Yes, exactly. How about you? What have you been reading?
Dude, I've been reading Wild's End. Weirdly, this was sold. Oh, it's my little bookmark. You can see how far I've come. So this is by Dan Abnett. It was sold to me, but it might have been something I read, that it was War of the Worlds crossed over with Wind in the Willows, which is I don't know if you even know what the Wind of the Willows is. It's a very British thing. But it's
I can't say
anthropomorphic characters. There's like a Toad of Toad Hall and all these different animal type, humanoid animal characters. It's not that. They are humanoid animal characters, but it's not based on Wind of the Willows. But this element, the kind of alien invasion element, is very War of the Worldsy, but also not. So the influences are there, but it's its own thing. It's written by Dan Abnett. The art is by I.N.J. Colbard, and it was two 6-issue minis and a larger kind of almost like new graphic novel, like a larger equivalent.
I almost bought that.
But it
in my
says
hand.
book 1 on everything. Book 1, as if there's going to be another volume. There isn't. I think this is everything. And it's a nice little sort of mini chunker.
I was mini chunker. I was I almost bought it, and I remember it being brought up in one of our incomings
Hmm.
before.
Yes.
And I kind of was like, let me wait for Dave to give me his review on it before because there's so much. There was a few things to pick
There's
that
a
day.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to get that because of the fact we mentioned it. So, but I knew you had it, so I'm gonna Dave
I
give me the.
waited. I got it for an absolute bargain for like 2/3 off. So I was made up. No matter how good or bad it was, I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I won.
that's the other thing,
But
right?
yeah, it's
So,
cool. I'm loving it so far.
okay, you're loving it so far.
Yeah.
Cool. I was gonna
Very,
say, what do you
very,
think?
very British. Very
It's okay.
British. Like the turns of phrase and everything are incredibly British, to the point where you're going, are you kind of shoehorning these very British phrases in just to make it seem more British? But he might well be. But
Could be
hey
making it
ho.
more authentic. Why not? Well, incoming for June already.
I know we do this every time, right? We're going like, what, already? But like, when I was typing it out, I went, incoming, June. How is it nearly June?
It's really, yeah, time. I don't know. I don't know if it's
Okay.
a age thing
Is it
where
you?
yeah, where you, as you age, time just goes quicker, and you're just like, can you stop?
It's like a
Thank you.
spiral in the sink. If you read The Invisibles, it explains how time moves. So check that out.
Haven't delved into that yet. I'm almost intimidated by it because I know it's gonna have me tripped out.
Oh, yeah.
But incoming for June, I felt that there were a couple of pretty for Captain Obvious himself over here. There's a couple very obvious picks that I'm excited to talk about. That it's not going to be a surprise at all.
But you
Depending on
say
who goes
that,
first.
and there are times when I don't put stuff on the list thinking, Eric will pick that one. Eric's got that one covered. And then you don't. So you never know.
Well, I try to mix it up.
Yeah.
I try at least to have one surprise.
Cool.
Or right? At
Yeah, and you
least.
do. There's normally something there where I go, what? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, or you'll be like, man, I didn't think of to pick that. And I'm like, yes, that guy surprised him.
Got him.
That's the good thing about being Captain Obvious, is that you sneak in a surprise really easy.
It's an illusion.
Okay, who's first this week?
I did check, and apparently it's me.
Okay,
But I feel slightly guilty because I'm grabbing one that I think might be one of yours, but I wanted to
Go
open
for
with
it.
a big one. Steady, matron. However, this is a big one, and it's a second print, and I don't normally suggest second printings unless it's something that's been long out of print. It might even be a third printing at this point. So my number one choice is this beast, and it is a beast. Look at this, Mo Flipper. It's Thor by Walter Simonson. Was this on your list? Oh, dude,
I was gonna. If I went first, I would have picked it first.
would you? If someone only watches this far into the episode, please buy this book. You will just love it. There's nothing not to love. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Sal Buscema's art, so when Walt Simonson actually leaves, so he writes and draws the vast majority of it, but there is a point where Simonson leaves. The Omniverse Corrections Department would like to explain that there was a point during Walt Simonson's run that he stopped drawing the series, but continued to write, while taking over art chores on X Factor. And Sal Buscema takes over as artist. I'm not a big fan of Sal Buscema at all, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to. I'm still so happy reading this, but there is a weird childish nostalgia to this. I didn't read this when it came out. I read a couple of issues when I was a kid that were in the Marvel UK Secret Wars 2 series, just reprinted in that. But I didn't read much. I didn't read it till much later. So I was never the 8-year-old lying on my living room floor flipping through the comic with a big grin. But I was a 42 or 38-year-old. Every time I've read it later on in my life, I read it on the floor. I read it on the floor and I grin the entire way through. And my face hurts. That's how much I love it. It's so perfectly oddball. So they took the character who was, I don't even think it was selling particularly well, Thor, in the early 80s. It was just seemed to go through the same kind of tropes and the same kind of storylines. And there were some high points and everything, but, you know, it wasn't really breaking any barriers. Walt Simonson comes on, throws in an alien version of Thor, Beta Ray Bill. It really plays with the mythology aspect, but it also plays with other mythologies like Dark Elves, which aren't really to do with Asgard at all. And it's a wild ride from start to finish. Loki is fantastically manipulative. It's brilliant. He's not just the cackling like, I'm going to do something evil. Why, Loki? I don't know. It's what I freaking do. That's not motivation, mate. Come on, try a bit harder. He actually does stuff. He has a plan. He has several plans, and there's some really, really great creepy moments with Loki in it. And there's also tons of new characters. That beast comes in at 1,192 pages. It's a big one, and it's worth it. It's worth every goddamn penny. So it's Thor 337 to 355, 357 to 369, and 371 to 382, plus Boulder the Brave 1 to 4. There are a few gaps there, and the reason for that was because back in the day they used to have standby filler issues. So if the creative team were late, they could just run that, and so they're not included. But you're not missing anything. The story flows through, and it's kind of better with them not being there. It is recolored by Steve Olive. There was a certain amount of uproar about that when this was first released as an omnibus, and it was all recolored. Walt Simonson himself is super happy with the recoloring. It looks beautiful. It is a fantastic finish on this book, and I'm really happy with the coloring. I think it looks lovely, and I couldn't be happy with this book. It's one of my prized possessions.
Everything you said, I second it. Like everything.
Name a bad moment. Name one.
I read that when it first came out, not in the Visionaries, but they put out like a renewed sort of style of the Thor by Walt Simonson. And they came out 5 volumes of that, and I was reading it in that format, and I just loved it. It just got to a point, like I recognized I was reading old Thor comics from a time that I knew nothing really about Marvel. Like I was really sinking my teeth into something that was way beyond my sort of
wheelhouse
realm of understanding. But I was just like, I love this book. I love these comics. It's making me feel like everything I love wrapped up in this character that I didn't think was as interesting.
Yes, absolutely. I thought it was one of my least favorite Marvel characters,
and he's one of my favorite because of that run.
To me, this sums up what comics are about. This sums up that feeling you get when you read comics and why we love them so much, because it is literally the most shameless fun you can get from reading a book. And people go like, how can you be reading comics when you're in your 40s? Read that and you'll find out.
Not really your number one pick, but my first choice is something that I think was on one of our Most Wanted episodes. Most Wanted Omnibus episodes. And I don't know if it was on the Cave of Solitude at ones we did, or if it was when we did Omniverse. However,
I think I'll just get to last year. Last year? What I think it is, yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to purchase it, but I have read it all, and it's Secret Six from Gail Simone. It's one of those series that can fall in kind of like that hidden gem sort of territory, because not everyone talks about that series off the top. But I remember when the trades that were collecting them in like a little bit of a thicker chunk were 12, 13 issues at a time.
Yeah.
I forgot what they're called. I have them on my shelf. But it became one of those series that I even said this to Gail Simone. I'm like, it would stay in my collection because it was filled with surprises to a point where like I didn't know I would like these characters so much, because you're not bogged down by all of that. Well, that character wouldn't say that. You're just, that's cool that they made Catman.
Yeah.
This. Well, like it's fun. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Catman, like he's got a very confused history anyway, and that's one of the beauties of the DC universe, is that altered history, that constant altered history means you can kind of do what you want as well, but also the fact that they pick those more obscure characters.
Right.
Always makes for the better team book.
It's a great team book. They're, I think, an upgraded version of the Suicide Squad, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more like creepy.
Yeah.
There's creepiness added to this, but it's very much that same sort of Suicide Squad feel. Because some members are from the Suicide Squad.
Right, yeah, of course they are. Although, is it a bit like Thunderbolts in a way? Are they reforming, or are they still villains? Because I only read the miniseries that ties into Infinite Crisis. I haven't read past that, so this is going to be mostly new to me.
You're in for a treat. I really hope I'm right about that, because it's over. Did you like the issues from the
They were some of my favorites, yeah.
Okay, if you like that, you're gonna really like it because
Okay.
again, it's Gail Simone sticking with it, really developing the characters a little bit more further, deeply raising the stakes,
Hmm.
and I think it's Calafiore and who's the other artist? He was also Eaglesham
Oh,
was
Dale Eaglesham?
Dale Eaglesham is in it for quite a bit, so it's good comic book storytelling, and it deserves the omnibus treatment. I have it already collected in those four nice, I guess you could call them all, not ultimate, but like complete collection sort of style trades. I'm not gonna lie, if I find it for a bundle, I might just snatch this book because it's good. It's really, really good. But it is, to answer your question, it's not, it's sort of like a Thunderbolts, but they're not so much reforming. They are who they are.
Hmm.
It's just that they have moral code depending on the mission,
Okay.
right? So there's times where like each of their individual conscience will come into play. Like, yeah, we might kill, but like we don't do that. And another person will be like, well, I'll do that, but they won't do something else. It's like,
Like
hey,
Meatloaf.
right, what?
Like Meatloaf. That's doesn't matter. So
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I got it now. I'll little delay. I got it. I
that's
won't
all
do
right.
that.
I can
Ah.
wait. I can wait, mate. It's all right. I mean, the things on the cover, you've got who is that? So that's you've got Catman, Deadshot. Is that no? It's Ragdoll, Bane,
Mm-hmm. Bane. Yep.
and then there's two characters who I have seen the names of, and there's
She's
like a
in the
lady
book
with
for
a
sure.
with white hair and a she looks
I forget. I'll
Victorian
be honest.
English.
I couldn't break down every storyline in the book off the top of my head.
That's fair.
But if you did enjoy the Infinite Crisis tie-in, that it's not even really Secret Six. It's called, I think, Villains
Villains
United or
United, yes,
something like that. It if you like that, it stick with it. Give it, let it run its course. It's really good. Yeah.
nice. Well, it's 848 pages and it's volume one, so there'll at least be a volume two, right?
What does it collect?
Well, it collects Villains United 1 to 6, Villains United Infinite Crisis Special, Birds of Prey 104 to 109, which I think there's a crossover in there. Secret
Uh,
6 Volume 2, the mini series 1 to 6, and then the ongoing series 1 to 16, and then a couple of stories from
okay.
52 and Countdown to Infinite Crisis. That cover's by Nicola Scott. Does that mean Nicola Scott provides? Yeah,
I
she's
think
one of the
so.
artists on it, which that's an even bigger seller for me. I love Nicola Scott.
I think it's going to be very complete. But yeah, that's my first choice.
Okay, my number two tonight is Petrol Head, Volume 1. And that's from Rob Williams and Piper. So Rob Williams, you may know, oh God, he's written so much stuff. He's written tons of stuff, including Suicide Squad, New 52 era Suicide Squad. He's written a whole bunch of Marvel titles. He's from Wales, so he's from my side of the water. And then you've also got Piper, who's also from my side of the water. I think Rob Williams used to
Uh,
work on 2000 AD, mate, and so did Piper. So Piper was a designer for 2000 AD. Funnily enough, he went to uni with a friend of mine. We had both Rob and Pi on the show, and I did a collect item special with them. I did it while I had COVID, so I was rough as and I should have just gone, do you know what, can we put this off? But I didn't want to let them down, so I did it. But oh my God, it wasn't my best moment. So, however, go and watch me having COVID and interviewing people, by all means. It's great. How not to do an interview. So this is great. I love robots. I love robots. Piper has got this incredible style. So he loves drawing cars. He loves drawing hot rods. And that detail is always in there. He does intestinauts for 2000 AD as well, which are these little robots that go inside people like pills. They have their little mission. It's normally like a one pager, I think. But his art style is incredible. It's really bold, it's really bombastic. His colors are fantastic. I'm making this into a song, clearly. Petrol Head. The main robot is Petrol Head. He's a racer, so it's all about robots who race for the entertainment of the people, but the world is kind of broken, environmentally broken. And it
mhm.
doesn't like labor this point of like the environmental message. It's pretty obvious. Like this is a commentary on where we're going, regardless. We can't really argue that point anymore. But this is a 5-issue mini for the minute. And I know they were hoping to follow it up if it's successful. It's actually available for a pretty decent price as well. Very, very affordable. 5 issues, a lot of fun. It's funny. So they sent over the first issue, and I loved it. I loved it. And I think in my delirium, I tried to explain how I don't often give first issues very high ratings, because it's like we're just setting the scene and figuring out the characters. But I loved it. I loved that first issue so much. So I'm really, really looking forward to this book. It's paperback. It's 144 pages, and it's from Image Comics. Go and follow them on Instagram. Go have a look at the cover alone, and you can see just how bright and upbeat it is, even though it's tons of destruction, things exploding, the world's in chaos. But it's a beautiful world to look at, even though it's clearly hell.
That sounds good. My number 2. Well, I was gonna say, because of the Omniverse and our most wanted Omnis from DC, Marvel, wherever, it seems like they're listening, because this is my second pick, is one that was listed, and that would be Captain America from Mark Gruenwald. I'm pretty sure we put that on one of our episodes.
I think we
And
did.
so Secret Six was made, and now Captain America by Mark Gruenwald. We must be doing something.
It's all
Dave?
us, man. It's all
it's
us.
gotta be all
We're
us.
such an important influence in the comic book community.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, let's get right into the book. Anyone who's listened to us on numerous episodes, I usually bring up something from this era of Captain America. I'm a bit of a sucker for it, along with, like we mentioned before when Dave was talking about Thor. I think in and around the same time, this Captain America was being written. A lot of these issues were kind of happening
Yes.
simultaneously.
Yeah, very much
I think it
so.
was really, yeah, I think it was a really fun time to be reading Marvel Comics, because I like this era of the Mark Gruenwald's run on Cap is, I would say, akin to Peter David on Hulk in length
Wow.
of how long it went.
Oh, God,
How
yeah,
long
it
was
might
on.
even be longer.
That's what I mean. Like, he spent a lot
85.
of time.
Oh, no, it's about the same. You're right. It's about 10 years.
Yeah, about 10 years worth of story. So as the series goes on, not everything is a hit. Some people still love it. They become like cult classics for a lot of fans. But the start of this run, it's got its moments where it gets its footing, but you get into the Captain story, and
Oh,
there's a lot of really, really solid, great Captain America stuff during this time.
yeah.
I highly recommend, if you're a Captain America fan and you want somewhat of a I guess, other than the Brubaker stuff, which became very definitive,
Mm.
you had the Mark Waid, and
Hmm.
I think prior to that, many people would say Cap is Gruenwald's
Yeah.
character,
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, he stayed on that title, and he put Cap in a very different spot. So I think that was during the 80s. That was a time when some characters well, I think it was one of the first ones to do that. They switched him out, Cap being replaced by just someone else. He's fired. Bring someone else in,
It's
and that's a good chunk of this book. And it's such a good story. But the thing is, it's very dated. It is very dated.
it is.
So it's not like, I mean, it's of its time. But do you know what? It's another series that I take the absolute utmost pleasure reading. There are some bits where you're going, that's a bit weird, but it doesn't matter, because it's just so much fun. And so if you want to know where John Walker comes from, this is key, man. This is one of the most key books. And he also introduces, like, I love Madcap, even though no one else likes Madcap. I love Madcap. The Serpent Society, Scourge of the Underworld, the Armadillo. There's a tie-in as well to Under Siege that most people don't know is a tie-in to Under Siege in this run. Also having D-Man as a sidekick, who is just, most people think D-Man's crap. He is crap, and I love him. But most of all, it's the Captain story arc where Steve is fired and they get a replacement, and you follow that through, and that goes on for quite a while.
It's quite a while.
It's 332 to 350,
Yeah,
and the
it's
book
about a
ends at
year and a half.
350. So this is
Yeah.
that whole run plus the initial issues that lead up to it, including the introduction of Super Patriot, who becomes a bit of a key player in that storyline. There's tons in this, man, and it's so much fun. And it includes Captain America Annual number 8, which is the one where Cap fights Wolverine. And that cover alone is a classic. So that's drawn by Mike Zeck. Mike Zeck also does a lot of the covers on this run. So those kind of chapter breaks in an omnibus, you'll see those Mike Zeck covers, and there's some incredible ones in there. Especially 321. 321! It's Cap firing an Uzi. Oh! It's amazing.
It's a good run. I really enjoy this era of Marvel. Like clearly when from the Jim Shooter episode I spoke about it pretty highly, but when you read this, like Dave said, there's some stuff. There's a lot of it that's of its time, but there's a lot there to dissect and enjoy. It's a good book, man.
It's a really good
It's really
book.
good.
I mean, on top
Yeah.
of the Cap 307 to 350 and annual number 8, you've also got Marvel Fanfare 29, Amazing Spider-Man 278, which ties into Scourge of the Underworld, Iron Man 228, which ties into the Captain story, and some stories from Marvel Fanfare 26 and 31 to 32. So
Yeah.
that's a big old chunk. It's 1,336 pages of chunker.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big one. Dave, you're number 3.
Hello. My number 3 is Hunger in the Dusk, which is from IDW. It's by G. Willow Wilson, who's famous for creating the Ms. Marvel that we like.
Yes. Miss Marvel, we like.
And
That's right.
the art, the tone of it is absolutely perfect for this book. It's by Chris Wildgoose, who I've never, I haven't heard of before. I haven't seen his work before that I'm aware of. And it's perfect for this. It's a fantasy series, and it's about tribes of humans and orcs. And instead of just going that route of like one lot is evil, there's a bit of that there. There's that mistrust between the two factions, but there's a third element, and we're not 100% sure what they are. Are they vampires? Are they some kind of demons? Like, what are they? And these things, because of these two warring factions, they can't get their shit together. They're falling prey to these creatures. So the creatures are called the Vangol. Very odd, kind of creepy things. So the orcs and the humans have to form an uneasy truce. And there's not many of either left, especially humans. I think the orcs, there's way more of them. And they're having to play ball with each other. And it's not easy. And it's a rough ride. And it's a kind of a road trip. But it's done in a fantasy world. So can they actually get it together enough to beat these things? And incidentally, how are these things overpowering them so easily? What are they doing? What's their little secret, and what's their goal? We just don't know. So Hunger in the Dusk, this is volume 1. It's paperback, issues 1 to 6. It's 168 pages. I've said many times on here, I don't really do fantasy. I don't generally like it. It's not my thing. But I think there are a lot of writers who are taking fantasy and doing something different with it instead of just sticking to the tropes that I think were the reason I avoided it. It's very different. There's magic. There's different ways they use magic. The way the characters interact is different. There's like a romantic element, and you watch these characters grow very rapidly in those 6 issues. And it's G. Willow Wilson, who, I mean, I loved Ms. Marvel. I loved Kamala Khan. I think she's a great writer. And I've read this series already in digital just to make sure I wanted to buy it. This makes it so much more expensive. But I wanted to see if I wanted to buy it. So I wasn't sure because it's fantasy, but it really works. I loved it. And that Wild Goose artwork is just spot on. So new to the Omniverse this week, the Valiant Universe reading order 2012 to 2014. So that kicks off the relaunched Valiant Universe with Exo Manowar, Bloodshot, Archer and Armstrong, you name it, Harbinger, Quantum and Woody. It's all there. It's all in order. The first 2.5 years. Events and crossovers. We've got Spider Island, the 2011 Spider-Man event. Obviously, it's Spiders, Spider Island, Spider-Man. Infiltration, the 2005-2006 IDW event that starts their first version of the Transformers universe that ran for a good old while. As well as that, we've got Micronauts Triumphant, which is a 1984 X-Men Micronauts event. Not sure if the X-Men Micronauts series is going to be in the Omnis because they're not listed so far, which is a bit weird, seeing as they're supposed to be complete. And also Second Genesis, the 1975 mini event, as it were, when events weren't even events. So it's Giant Size X-Men and how it leads into X-Men. So it introduces the all different X-Men. There's been an update to Sins of Youth, podcast and video. We got the new manga spotlight that features special guest Ras Cascarino, who's our expert on the manga side of things. This is a Yakuza focused episode. Also our top 10 miniseries episode where Eric and myself list our top 10 miniseries, apart from one where Eric picks some issues from an ongoing series, but we let him off.
Oh yeah, but that one was come on. That one's kind of fair,
I did
kind
find
of.
out it was meant to be a one-shot. Year one. I think it was meant to be an original graphic novel.
You
Apparently.
see, kind of fits. It
Yeah,
was a,
sure.
it was a it was a
So,
good it was a clever cheat. Come on. Well, thank you, Dave. Getting back to our countdown. Let's see what I can cheat on this one now.
can you cheat on an
All right.
incoming? I don't think you
No,
can.
you
Well,
can't.
unless you
You
picked something from
can't.
last year.
Yeah,
It's
it's already came out.
incoming.
Well, this is I guess is not really cheap, but it's a reprinting. Ringo and Mark Waid, Fantastic Four. It's one of those nice cover to cover, and I gotta also say Howard Porter does a lot of nice work in this as well. He
He
deserves
does.
his kudos.
Yes.
A nice cover to cover Fantastic Four collection of writer creator doing their vision of what they see for the Fantastic Four. What's interesting about it when I listened to interviews from Mark Waid was that he wasn't people know him as kind of being encyclopedic in his knowledge of comic books and issues and when things happen. But he said Fantastic Four was one of those teams or characters he really didn't know anything about going into this. So he went back and retroactively did his reading and his homework to get a feel for who these characters are and then tried to come up with something original. But
Mm.
it wasn't like he had this sort of affinity for it the way he's kind of associated with Superman. So going into this series, reading the Fantastic Four and that knowing that this was really him just giving it his best shot, he did an excellent job and some of his best work, in my opinion. I'm a big Mark Waid fan, and this is some of his standout stuff. Even if you haven't read Fantastic Four from beginning or know a lot about them, this is a great place to start to see how you feel about the family. Because that's really what he captures, right? The family aspect of them being together and having
Yes.
that's their motivation.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And it also does some nice spotlight stories. I've got to admit, so this came out around the early 2000s, I think. And I haven't read it since then. So my memory of it is pretty hazy. However, like it's Mike Waringo. He's just one of my all-time favorite artists. That everything he does has such a upbeat, happy vibe, even when it's like a sad story. And the story is still sad and emotional, but the overall feel of the comic is you just come away feeling good. It's so odd and indescribable. Sorely, sorely missed creator. But Mark Waid, as well, as we discussed, one of the finest writers. He rarely disappoints.
Again, Fantastic Four is one of those teams where there's a lot of baggage that comes with them and a lot of expectation of how they're supposed to be and making them work. And for all the stories that have been told of the Fantastic Four, it stands out.
Okay, I'm going to go with another Image book. I love this guy's art. So it's Our Bones Dust from Image Comics, which is by Ben Stenbeck. He's the artist on Baltimore. He's done some Witchfinder. He's done a lot of stuff with Mignola, actually. A lot of it comes from that Hellboy universe or the Outerverse stuff. But I've never seen him do his own title. I am going to read the blurb, which I actually avoid doing when I'm going to read a book I've not read, because I like to know nothing. So I'm going to read this and then erase it from my memory until I have to edit this video later. Damn you, future me. A horrific survival adventure sci-fi story set on a post-apocalyptic Earth, Our Bones Dust is a nightmare landscape of brutality and blood. Following an AI archaeologist on a final mission to Earth, a feral child equal parts predator and prey, hunted by a family of nomadic cannibals with a mechanical, homicidal menace lurks in the background. While finding hope by the end is going to be very difficult for everyone. Yes, actually it does say here, Our Bones Dust is the first solo outing both written and drawn by one of Mike Mignola's favourite collaborators, Ben Stenbeck. Artist on Baltimore Witchfinder, Frankenstein, and Koshai? I can never remember how you pronounce that. 4-issue mini. As far as I know, one and done. Oh, that could have made our other list. But,
Nice.
wrong year. Maybe next year. It looks, I love his art. It's almost like, I don't want to say it's kind of like a slightly more detailed Mignola. When you're reading the stuff that they do together, it feels right. So it feels like it's kind of in that Mignola wheelhouse. But it's still very much its own thing. And I love his stuff. So I follow him on Instagram. He's on there as Mr. Stenbeck. Go check out his art. It's very, very nice and clean. And it's just another one of those books that makes me happy, even when some of it is twisted as hell.
Nice. Nice pick.
Thank you.
I'm laughing as you're reading the description. Do you hate every time I read the descriptions for the books?
No, I just don't listen. Because if it's something I want to read, I just don't listen.
You just want it to be a surprise.
Yeah, I like a surprise. I never read the back of the book. I read the blurb on Snow Angels because I did the first and last ever book overview on YouTube. I just didn't. It wasn't fun to do. I don't. That's why I do them as a minute. I think like, nah, people don't need that. There's enough people doing that. Do them as a quick hit. But I read the back of that, and it told you what happened halfway through the story. Like I figured out what was going to happen, so I was just waiting for that moment. It was like, it hasn't happened yet.
That's
Hasn't happened yet.
That's
Hasn't happened
sloppy.
yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
really
think
bad.
that's sloppy.
So I like surprises, and I'm really bad at guessing. I mean, like I'm good at guessing what's going to happen. So the opening credit of the others, I was watching that with someone I was going out with, and she went, "I've got a film with a twist that you'll never guess." Opening credits, there's like a pre-title sequence, and I was watching it with her, and then it started in the opening credits, and I went, and she went, "Yes." Like, how could you know? I guessed it immediately. It's really annoying, but I think it's from reading so many stories, and you kind of like, here are the
That's what it is
clues, and
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you think it might be? Like, oh, it's going to be that. Yeah,
Yeah. I totally understand that, especially with having, like you said, reading so many stories. You start to see there's an interconnectivity with things.
yeah.
Number four?
Number
No, number
four.
four. I'm going to talk about Matt Fraction with Iron Man. So his Iron Man run, I'm not sure why they haven't put it in an omnibus
I
yet,
was thinking
since
the same.
they put his Thor stuff and they put the Fantastic Four stuff in omnibus, which that's fine, but all intents and purposes, it's really his Hawkeye and his Iron Man stuff where he really made a name for himself at Marvel. I think I could be wrong, but his Iron Man stuff that I've read
Yeah, no,
was
you're
really
right.
really strong,
Yes.
and it
It was
was.
winning awards. It did really well, considering it ties in so closely to other titles and stories going on at the time. It will make sense, but there'll be parts where you're probably going, sorry, why is this bit happening? But that was the
But
nature of
it's
the Marvel Universe at that period.
right. And the one thing about Fractions run that should be noted is that this is where you start to get that real blend of Robert Downey Jr.'s influence on the character coming through in the comic.
In a good
So that's
way.
one. Yeah,
Hmm.
not in a bad way.
Hmm.
It's a great run, and it's going to be released in an epic format for Marvel Epic Collection, which is going to come out and start collecting it. And it's stuff that should be read in nice chunks because it's such a I don't know how to put it, but like the story feeds into itself constantly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's events that interrupt it, but at this point, Iron Man is a key part of the Marvel universe more than ever, especially because of the movies and things like that. So
Yeah.
check this out if you're not sure. Like, I want to read an Iron Man story and I don't know where to begin because there's years and years and years, like every other character at Marvel. Matt Fraction stuff is a safe bet. I
It's a
think.
really safe bet. I mean, if you do want a feeling of more of a feeling of completeness, all you'd need to add, and seriously, this is all you need to add, would be after issue 7, I think it is, or is it 5 or 7? I think it's 7. Read Secret Invasion, and then just carry on. You'll be fine. I'm still going to hold out for an omnibus. This
It'll
collects
come out.
Invincible Iron Man 1 to 19. I think the omnibus might include The Order, which was a 10-issue series Fraction wrote that does relate to this, but you don't need to read it. But it does introduce characters that feature in it. So it's an interwoven grander universe. My final choice for tonight is Geiger Deluxe Edition from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. It's great. This is the beginning of a universe. It's Ghost Machine. So all these characters are based on that kind of American legend style mythology. So it's got a superhero vibe to it in that people have powers, but they don't necessarily look or feel like what you expect of a superhero character. Geiger is, as you can tell by the name, is going to be radioactive based, but he's not your typical protagonist from a superhero book. It's set 25 years in the future, though this new universe they've created, it falls under Image, but it comes under the Ghost Machine kind of subline that Johns is heading up. Yeah, it's the beginning of something big, man. There's a lot of stuff that's come out since, because Geiger came out a couple of years ago in trade paperback, but now they're collecting it as a deluxe edition, oversized deluxe edition. I mean, the artist is Gary Frank. Like, hello, you can't go wrong. It's Gary Frank. He's just excellent. Like, I love Gary Frank's art, and I have done since Motor Mouth and Kill Power. I mean, so this is your oversized deluxe version of Geiger. It's complete with Geiger 80-page Giant #1 as well, which
Nice.
wasn't in the original collector's edition. So you get that bonus thing, and that 80-page Giant introduces a lot of the other characters that we're gonna see through this universe. Characters like Junkyard Joe, which I think made it onto your top 10 for 2023. Red Coat, Rook.
They're in the 80-page Giant.
Yes, they're in the 80-page Giant. There's something coming here, in that if you only ever read this book, you'll be happy. But if you want more, there is more coming. And I kind of feel like this is the way they're going to do it. I think they're going to release trades and they're going to do the deluxe later on. So you'll have a nice collection if you prefer deluxe on your shelf. It's 272 pages, Image Comics, Ghost Machine, // There we go. This is the start of a universe. So if you're sick of your big two, try something new.
I'm going to double check and make sure that it is an Image comic that I'm going to recommend next. Yes, it is. It's listed as Kyle Higgins being the writer. It's called Deep Cuts. It's an anthology, but it's described in the description, which I know Dave doesn't want me to talk about, but it's Kyle Higgins and Joe Clark, who worked on Radiant Black. Anthology is on the artist's side of it. An anthology of stories that weave tales of struggle, joy, and hope through the history of jazz. I'm not a jazz aficionado, but I like it enough to want to read a graphic novel or a comic book series collected about jazz history, because I am a fan of jazz. I'm getting into it now as I get older. And I sit at home and sip my whiskey or have my wine with a cigar or something like that.
Do the jazz dancing in your living room?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Right? But I do appreciate the history of it, especially when there's so many hip hop songs that I really like that are actually great jazz songs. Right? So I do like that sort of digging into the history of it. So this caught my attention. I love the cover of it. It looks beautiful. There's a little preview that you can kind of check out on some of the online sites where you can buy books. That is very helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to check this out for sure. Yeah, it looks beautiful. I was wondering if I was like, oh, maybe I would. No, I'm definitely getting this.
Did you see Ramon Perez is one of the artists on it as well?
Wonderful. Yeah, he's a jazz fan. I remember talking to him when he was on I think it was Solitude he was on. He did mention that Miles Davis, he's a big Miles Davis fan. Sketches from Spain. Yeah, I remember him talking about. So maybe there's something there. Miles Davis, Ramon Perez. I don't know, but I'm excited.
Possibly.
I'm excited for this.
Junie Barr is also doing some of the art. I don't know all the names, but like the preview art looks like incredible. So you'll have to let us know what you think.
Oh yeah, this is definitely going to make it onto the shelf, and it's a little bit more expensive of a paperback, but it is 300 pages. 312 pages. Yeah, so
that's nice.
You're getting 6 issues, but it's a good page count. So
yeah,
I'm excited for this. This will be cool.
Oh, that's nice. You did it again. Look at you, you little trickster.
Gotcha. I got you with something you didn't expect. You see? Told you. Captain Obvious to the end. Then there's a surprise. Until the end. I don't know. You're gonna probably go through the things we didn't mention that are coming out.
Do you want to? You can talk about the things that caught your eye if you want to just list it.
So the only other things on the list that we didn't mention would be New X-Men Epic Collection. I've never read Grant Morrison's New X-Men stuff, so this might be a good way to give it a preview and a nice big chunk to say like let me see what this is all about and see if I like it.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Mark Waid, Shazam Thunderstruck.
Well, they've changed the title. It's called Meet the Captain now. So it's Shazam Volume 1 Meet the Captain.
I'm still interested.
Yeah, I'm more interested now. Well, it's Dan Mora and Mark Waid. So you've got your world's finest team. And they've changed it. I think they probably did this on purpose because they're calling him the Captain in reference to him being Captain Marvel, obviously.
Right.
Because he's been Shazam since the New 52 started. And it's
That's
never
cool.
sat well with me. So I'm liking this turn.
How about you?
Okay, I will do a fast run through. I'm not going to do lots of little lines after each one because there's too many.
Okay.
But I'll try and keep it super brief. Also coming out this month, we've got Grimm Deluxe Edition Book 1 from Boom Studios, which I think is the first 15 issues of that series. From Dark Horse, we've got Canary by Scott Snyder and Dan Panosian. Operation Sunshine Volume 1, Blood Run, which is also from Dark Horse, paperback. David Rubin on the art. DC, they're releasing, or re-releasing, Absolute Final Crisis. They're also re-releasing Identity Crisis, but as a 20th anniversary deluxe edition. So it's going to look like this, but with a 20 at the top. Yeah. Just call it a deluxe. They're also releasing Batman Catwoman, The Gotham War, Lobo Big Frag and Compendium Volume 1, so that's a paperback chunker, and Super Sons The Complete Collection Book 1. Dynamite, Red Sonja Volume 1, His Master's Voice, which is by Torun Grønbekk, Vampirella Year 1, which I think is by Christopher Priest, and Vampirella vs. Red Sonja. IDW have got Dungeons & Dragons Fortune Finder, which is another Jim Zub written Dungeons & Dragons series. Image are releasing I Hate Fairyland Compendium Volume 1, the whole fluffin' thing. Marvel, Daredevil Epic Collection Fall from Grace, Punisher Max from Garth Ennis. So this has been re-released. It's been a long time since this has been in print. New Warriors Omnibus Volume 3, Rom The Original Years Volume 2, Oni are releasing Sixth Gun Omnibus Volume 3, which is the paperback collection. That wraps up the main story of Sixth Gun. Get it?
It's on my next list to get books.
Savage Sword of Conan, the original comics omnibus, Volume 1 is coming from Titan, and from Alien Books / Valiant, we've got Valiant Classics Collection, Bloodshot, The Blood of Heroes, which is, I think, the first 12-ish issues of the original Bloodshot series from the 90s.
Nice. Very nice. June is going to be exciting. Everyone that's been with us on the live, our usual suspects, thank you. We love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us again. Dave, as always, a pleasure.
Likewise.
Everybody, don't forget to rate and review the show and visit the omniversecomics.guide. If you like this, you're going to love the site.
If you don't like this, you'll still love the site, so go there anyway.
That's a good point. Exactly. Till next time.
Adieu.
Friend.